In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a real-world logo. This is an actual logo that was sent to me by a customer. This logo, Java Detour logo, was provided by kingsclothing.com, and they sent me this logo asking me to convert this into a rhinestone design for them. And so I want to show you the process, because once you understand working with real-world logos and how you can utilize the tools in CorelDRAW in conjunction with the tools here in EasyStone, you'll find that you can really fairly easily recreate just about any logo that you're presented with. Now, this logo was specifically selected because it's what I would consider a very basic starter logo for you. So we're just using a couple of features of CorelDRAW, just a couple of features here in EasyStone, but basically it's a very, very basic logo. So this is a good place to start if you're just learning. Now, I should also point out to you that we do not have the vector file. Now, most of the time, we're going to say to our customer, do you have a vector file? And most of the time, they're going to tell us no. But on occasion, they may tell us yes. In certain circumstances, a vector file can help us more rapidly produce a particular design. In certain other cases, it doesn't. In this particular case, it would help a little bit, but it's not really that imperative. So our process for this logo is taking it from the JPEG version and creating a rhinestone design out of it. So we don't have the vector part of it. So first things first, we have a JPEG that we've imported here into CorelDRAW. Now, the customer has sent me this JPEG actual size. So they said, I want this to be actual size, just the way I sent it to you, using all SS10 stones. I say, okay, no problem. I can knock this out in just a matter of a few minutes. So let me show you our process. So first things first, we need to lock our JPEG, which I always do. So I import it, right click on it, lock it. Right here, lock object. That will then not allow me to move that JPEG. Now from there, this is how I handle it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to stone our cup. So what I'd like to do is drag down a guideline. Because we're dealing with all straight lines, I'm just dragging the guidelines from the rulers to every corner of my cup. You can see right here, there's a slight slant on the left and a much larger slant here on the right. Okay, so now I have all of my guidelines in place for my cup. Now I'm going to come in here to CorelDRAW and choose the pen tool. There are many different tools that we can create curves with, and each tool has its own place, but the pen tool is perfect for this example. Under the View menu, we want to make sure that we have Snap to Objects and Snap to Guidelines turned on. So now that that is turned on, at every intersecting point of my guideline, I just click with my pen tool, and that is going to give me an outline for my cup. Now I have an outline for my cup. If I select that outline and fill it, you can see I can have a fill for my cup, right? Now these guidelines are now confusing me. So I double click on one, and I hit clear, and then over here I can switch over to vertical guidelines and hit clear, and then all my vertical and horizontal guidelines have now been eradicated from my document. Now, how do we stone the cup? Well, the one way you could stone it, just to give you an idea, is we could come over here to the Stone Fill tab, and we could click Add Stones and hit Island Fill. That's one way to do it. Okay, then we would have to manipulate all these stones in the center, and of course we don't want to do all that. So that's not the most effective way for this particular example. And the more logos you do, the more easily you're going to see, well, how best to handle a particular logo. So for this case, I know how to handle this logo for this cup shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a straight line. Okay, very easy to do in CorelDRAW. Then I'm going to pick that line up and snap it to the bottom of my cup because I have the Snap to Objects function turned on. And then here in EasyStone, we have this offset function down here. Now the amount of offset is already determined by our stone and spacing dimensions here. So from here, I'm going to click on steps. I'm going to say, you know what, give me 20. Give me 20 lines just like that. Hit the up arrow, and you can see, boom, 20 lines just like that one, right? Now 20 lines is too much, but you get the idea, right? So now what I need to do is take these lines that I just created and I need to trim them to the very edge of my cup. So how do I do that? Well, what I do is I click on my cup and I come over here to my editing tab and I choose Mark Cut Trim Object button. And then I select everything but my cup, which are just the lines that I want to trim, and I click Trim. Now you don't really see anything happen, but it did, because if I make a selection of these lines on the left and I hit my delete key, they've been trimmed down back to my cup. Same thing over here to the right, trim back to my cup, and I can now dispose of my cup. Don't need it. I just have these horizontal lines. And so I then select those lines, come over here to my Stone tab, choose what size stone I want, which for SS10 I use 3.2. So I click Add Stones, and you can see that the stones are now added to those horizontal lines, and now my cup is full of rhinestones, and there's no editing to do because all the spacing is perfect. Excellent. So now I can move on. Now the next thing I need to do is take care of the steam. Okay, so I just need to create one set of steam and duplicate it because the other ones are exactly the same. So I'm going to choose the drop stone function. That drops me one single stone right here in the middle of my document. I'll move this up here, position it where I want it, and then left click and drag. This is the Corel Draw shortcut we have to know. We have to know this for rhinestone design. So remember this, practice it, test it out, get it, because you're going to use it all the time. So left click and drag the stone, and guess what? It moves it, right? Pretty nifty stuff. But what we want to do is add one extra step. Left click and drag, right click. That makes a duplicate stone when I let go. Now another option would be to left click and drag and hit the space bar. But when you do that, you still have another stone. So we could just go boom, 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 making all kinds of stones, right? So those two have different options. So just kind of keep that in mind. So left click, drag, right click. That makes one duplicate stone, just like we need. Now I'm going to select these two stones, and if I hit Shift Add Stones, watch what happens. Easy Stone will automatically calculate the number of stones that will fit between the two selected objects and create a straight line between them. Now if I click on this middle stone and hit the up arrow, I can actually add a stone. Now you can see that the stone spacing is a little bit tight here. So what we can do is go to the View menu, choose Wireframe. If I switch over here to my Shape Edit tool, I can click on this path that I created, and because those stones are attached to the path, I can then drag that up a little bit, thereby increasing the spacing between those stones. Let's go back to the Enhanced mode there, and that's how you can modify the spacing between stones. Just modify the path, the stones follow the path. Now I can select this group of stones, left click and drag. If I hold my Shift key down, it'll constrain perfectly horizontally, and once I have the spacing the way I want it, right click. That makes me a duplicate, and let go, and now I have two of the same. And so I would just do that, select them both, left click, drag, right click, another duplicate, left click, drag, right click, and once you do that enough in Corel Draw, it's going to become absolute second nature for you. Okay, so now we have our cup and our steam already created, ready to go. Now the next thing is the circle, and that of course is simple. Corel Draw has a circle function. If I hold my control key down, it constrains to a perfect circle. I just kind of have to position this. If I pull from the corner, up a little bit like so, and up a little bit like so. I don't know exactly how big this was, but we just got to get it close. It don't have to be dead spot on perfect. You can see it is a perfect circle, but it's not like exactly perfect to the original artwork, but close enough. Now, if I go over here to my stone fill tab, I've decided that I want 2 rows of stones to represent this circle. So just so you understand how this function works, I have a circle. If I hit Island Fill 1 and hit Island Fill, it'll create a new line, a new circle to the inside. a certain distance automatically. I'm going to undo that. That distance is determined by the stone size and the spacing and can be overridden if we want. Now, if I select my original circle and I hold down one island fill and shift island fill, then you can see what happens. It creates a circle to the outside. You may be wondering, well, what happens if I don't specify the number of offsets and I hit island fill? Well, it will offset, 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 offset until it can't offset no more. So it has its purposes. And if we attempted to hit shift island fill, then it would say you cannot do this. Okay, so it warns us when we make a mistake. So when we're shift island fill offsets to the outside, and it cannot offset to the outside infinitely. So it says, hey, you got to specify a number of offsets. So for example, if I were to specify 3 offsets and hold shift island fill, it would obviously gradually increase the circle 3 times to the outside of the original circle. Alright, so now that we know how that works, now what we're going to do is we're going to hit 1 island fill. We're going to choose the add stone function and hit island fill. So that's going to create stones around the original circle, offset to the inside exactly 3.7 millimeters, and create another circle with stones applied to it. Now sometimes I like to look at the design as I'm progressing here. So we have our logo done. So let's select all of our logo and left click, drag, right click. That makes a duplicate of our logo. And now you can see if we look at this logo, every stone has a black outline, and sometimes that can be just a little confusing to look at. And also the path, you can see all these paths. If I go to the wireframe mode, you can see it even better. All these paths are visible. So to make those not visible, what we can do is select the entire logo and right click on our no color square there, and now you can see all of our paths have disappeared. All the outlines around the stones have disappeared, but the paths are actually still there. If we go to wireframe mode, you can see them. Okay, so sometimes, like I said, you get a feeling for what this logo is going to look like now, which I think it looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and delete that. Now the next part of our task obviously is to create our text, and this is usually the part that people will get snagged on the most. Now there's certainly pre-stoned rhinestone fonts that are available that we can purchase, and we could probably type out. We could probably find one that's similar to this, and we could probably type out Java Detour. That would save us a lot of time. But I want to show you one technique to do it here in CorelDRAW. Now, when we're first starting out with CorelDRAW and we're first starting out with EasyStone, our main goal is to teach you techniques that get the job done. It may not be the fastest way to get a job done, but it gets it done. And it gets it done with limited CorelDRAW knowledge and limited EasyStone knowledge. It's just, here's a technique, we can knock it out, we can get it done. It is going to take us a few minutes to create this text using this technique, but it's a very basic technique. So we don't have to have a lot of understanding of CorelDRAW and vector manipulation and a deep understanding of EasyStone. It's just a really, really basic technique, and that's what I want to show you when we're creating this text. And then we're going to build upon that down the road where we have vector files that we're starting with, or taking a JPEG and converting it to vector before we start rhinestoning. But this is just a real basic technique to get the job done and learn a little something along the way that will help us build towards more complex logos down the road. So the first thing we need to do is come over to our Stone tab, and we'll click on the Drop Stone function. That drops us one stone right here in the middle of our document. We can't see it because our logo was covering it, but it's there. So there's our stone. And what we're going to do is we're going to place the stone right over our text. And we're going to do that going all the way across where I think I might need more stones. So we're going to hold our shift key down, left click right here for our A, right here for our V. we'll go ahead and drop another one here for the other side of our V, even though I don't think I need it there. We'll do it anyhow. Let's see, what else? We'll go ahead and do that for our letter U. And we will go ahead and do that for the other side of our letter U. We'll go ahead and do that for our R. And then we're going to just start from the bottom. So then we just come down here and go to the bottom. There's for our R, for our U, and then for our T, for our E, for the bottom part of our D, and we'll come over here for our A, and our bottom part of our V. Okay, and then we need a 1 for the bottom part of our J. Go ahead, and then we'll just kind of, and then we need a little top part of our J. So left click and drag, right click, that takes care of our little top part of our letter J. Once we do this A, we'll copy it over to here so we don't have to worry about that. We do need a top to our letter D here. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we need a top to our letter T over here. So we'll go ahead and do that as well. And then that's pretty good. So then here for our letter U, we want to just make sure both of those are lined up. So we select them both, hit the C key on our keyboard. That will center those two objects. Alright, so let's just start here with our letter J and show you how this works. So we select our top stone, hold our shift key down, select our bottom stone, shift, add stones. What that does is adds a series of stones between the two and a path. Most critical thing is the path. Go switch over to our shape edit tool. The path becomes highlighted. I can then click anywhere along the path to add a anchor point or a node. I can right click on that node, change it to a cusp, and then I'm going to position this right where I want it. Now this top part of the line, I'm going to right click on it and choose to line because right now it's a curve. And then the bottom part of our line here, I can then use these little arrow keys to kind of fine-tune the exact position there. And if I'm not happy, like right now you can see this part, see how this kind of comes at a slant? So what I could do here, if I wanted to, I could grab over a guideline, and you can see down here where this node is right here, I just need to shift it over, and because Snap to Guides is turned on, now you can see it's a perfect line of stones with a little bit of curvature at the bottom for our letter A. And then that's all taken care of. Now I can actually get rid of that guideline, just click on it and hit delete. Now what do we do for our letter A? Again, select the first stone, select the last stone, hold to shift, add stones, creates a line of stones, grab our shape edit tool, and just drag that curvature up. Now in that process you can see that the gap between these stones is fairly great. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click, add an anchor point, do the exact same thing we did before. Change that to a cusp, and what that allows us to do, it allows us to manipulate the bottom part of the line from the top half of the line. Okay, so each one of those will be independent, but when I click on these stones, I can click add stones again. It will recalculate and fill in those gaps as we need them. Now, with that done, I'm going to go ahead and break those stones. Now I need to create this looping part of our letter A. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this stone here, hold my shift key down and click on the stone below it, and click shift add stones. Now it didn't actually create a stone, but it did create a path. See that little segment? And I'm just going to double click. That will create an anchor point or a node. I'm going to right click, change it to a cusp, and then click and drag it right over here. Now with that done, I can then take this line, just click on the line and pull it up, and with these arrow keys I can fine tune the line itself. So pull this line down, just click on it, pull it down, and then with the arrow keys, again, I can fine tune it. Okay, now it's difficult to fine tune because right now there aren't any stones. There's just a stone at the beginning and a stone at the end. So that's not going to help us a great deal. So I'm going to come over here, click on this blend group, and then hit add stones, and now you can see all those stones are now filled in. So now what I can do now, because I have stones that I can actually see, I want to make sure that I manipulate this enough so there's no overlapping here. So let's just modify that a pinch. And then these, I really don't like the way that looks, so let's right click and choose smooth. That'll kind of smooth that out, and just fine tune that to get that letter A exactly the way you want it. And I think that's good enough for what I want. So I could click on this grouping of stones and hit the down arrow, and maybe I like that a little bit better, have a little bit more spacing there for my letter A. And so once I have one letter A done, I can just duplicate that, hit the plus key on my keyboard, and just use my arrow keys to reposition this A right over here. Something like that. So now I just have to do my letter V, and the easy way to do that is duplicate this bottom stone, hit the plus key on my keyboard, so I have a duplicate right on top of one another. Select these two, shift add stones. Okay, that adds, and then I still have that stone selected down here, and hold my shift key, select the top stone, same thing, shift add stones. And that creates a duplicate. Now, we do have an overlapping situation here, which is obviously not very good. So what I could do here is I'm just going to select break stones, and then I can just shift those. So I can use my arrow keys if I want to. So I use one shift, and then maybe a half a shift there. Just a little bit of a nudge factor there to make that adjustment so I don't have that overlapping at the V. Okay, the D is created kind of just like our A was. So we'll select both of those, shift add stones. We'll go ahead and break those stones. Select this stone and this stone. Shift add stones. Go ahead and grab our shape edit tool. Double click to create an anchor point. Move it over here. Right click, change it to a cusp. Pull this line up. So this top part of the line upwards. Pull the bottom part of the line downwards. Right click. We're going to choose the smooth option. And then I can fine tune with these control handles. It's going to be a lot easier to fine tune with the control handles once I have some stones to work with. So select that stone and hit add stones again. That will fill in the gap. And then I can come back in here and edit these stones. I don't need to do much. I just need to add a little bit of gap there so there's no half overlap there. And same thing up top. Just give a little bit of space there. And then sit back and look at the rest of my letter D. I think it looks just fine. Now for our letter E, very simple. We'll just right click and drag an extra stone there. Hold the shift key down, select both of those stones, shift add stones. Grab my shape edit tool, double click to create an anchor point, right click to create a cusp, drag it over here, pull this line up, pull this line down, right click, make that, smooth it out. I need some stones, so click on that stone, hit add stones. That will fill in the gap for me, and then I can fine tune my path if needed. So, which I do need to fine tune it. So let's go ahead and just manipulate it however you want. Just with these control handles is the easy way to do it. Once I get my main part of my letter E just exactly the way I want it, which I think we're about there, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these stones. So go ahead and click the stones and hit break stones, and then I can take this stone and go ahead and position it, make it a duplicate, and select those two stones, shift add stones to add the stone in the middle, and that takes care of our letter E. Now for our letter T, we kind of need the same thing. Select the top and bottom, shift add stones, grab my shape edit tool, double click to create a node. That's a control point, right click and make it a cusp. Okay, so now it's a cusp, and then I'm going to pull this down. Now this top part of the line, I'm going to right click and make it to line, and just like we did with our letter J, we need to line up this bottom part of our letter T here. You can see it's off just a little bit. That note is off just a pinch. So let's snap it right to the guideline. And then I can control the bottom part of our letter T where it has that little bit of a hook action there, not too much. Now, this stone right here I need to modify a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our line and we're just going to modify it so that stone right there lands right here at the crossbar, which is exactly what we want it to do there. Okay, so now I can break these stones, and then I can just go ahead and duplicate this one over here. And if we want, we can actually come in here to our stone fill and use this offset function. It automatically duplicates to the left, to the right, and that spacing is automatically calculated for us. So that's kind of handy as well. So that takes care of our letter T. Now let's move on to our letter R. Top stone, bottom stone, shift add stones, break stones, and let's just hand place the arch of our letter R. So we'll grab a stone, right click to make a duplicate, right click to make a duplicate. That takes care of the letter R. Our U here, shift add stones. And we'll break those stones too. Select this stone and this stone, shift add stones. Creates us a line of stones, which we can then manipulate. Okay, once we have our U the way we want it, click on the stones again, hit add stones one more time. Fills in the gaps. And then finish this off with our O here. We'll just go ahead and select that, hit add stones. Now I am going to lower the stone count here, so let's click on a stone and go down a stone, increasing my spacing a little bit there. I think that looks pretty good. Alright, so now all of our lettering and the logo itself has now been completed. So now what I would do is I tend to leave this where it's at and select the entire design and left click and drag and make a duplicate of it. And then I select the entire design and I break any stones that are connected to a path. I hit break stones, and you can see right now, you see all these paths? We need to get rid of those, right? So select the entire design, come over to our selections tab, choose select define paths, and you will find them all right there. So I'm just going to hit my delete key. And now you can see all the paths are in fact gone. Don't have our paths. Select the entire design again and right click so there's no outline on our objects. And then finally over here on our miscellaneous tab, let's choose the add weedbox function. That sets a black background so we can better see our design as it looks. Plus it gives us, when we go to cut this out of our flock template material, then we have an outline of our design. And this is our finished product. Okay, so now you can see how that design looks. It looks great. If I want a little bit more spacing between the steam and the... So what we could do here is I could come in here and add a little bit more spacing, I think, between the steam and the cup. About like so. But other than that, you can see our text looks great. I don't think we've got any issues to worry about there. So you can see a pretty simple technique to create the logo. We've only used a couple of functions here in EasyStone, a couple of functions in CorelDRAW. Could we have done that text quicker? Maybe we could have, using different techniques. But what I wanted to show you with this logo is, with a very basic CorelDRAW knowledge, very basic EasyStone knowledge, you can create simple logos like this fairly easy and effectively. Thanks for watching.